I saw people spending thousands of dollars on neuro linguistic programming trainings, and they still didn't understand the basics of NLP. Since creating this channel, I've steered thousands of people in the right direction. Yet, there is still plenty of work to be done. Misinformation about NLP is worse than it's ever been. I started making NLP videos because I wanted people to understand what they should have learned from their NLP teachers, but obviously they're not learning. Then I realized something. It's not always the fault of the student. When I met my mentor, Steve Andreas, the timing was perfect. My personal NLP practice, meaning the work that I was doing on myself, more so than the work that I was doing, I started to do work with clients, but more so the work that I was doing on myself had stagnated, and I didn't know why. What he revealed to me was it was some hard truths that he revealed to me that the NLP that I had spent thousands of dollars learning diluted with non-NLP content to the point that looking back on it, I wouldn't really call that real NLP anymore. And these were world-renowned NLP teachers I was learning from. I live in Santa Cruz, where NLP was created. So Steve helped me unlearn what I had learned so that I could learn real NLP. And that's when my life really started to change. And that's really what I want to help other people do from these videos. The real lesson here, and this goes for anything, not just your NLP journey, because some of you are in the process of the NLP journey and you find my videos. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, hey, I was doing my NLP training, I was doing my practitioner, my master practitioner, and your videos helped me understand what I was supposed to be learning. Your videos helped me understand what I was supposed to be doing or supposed to be getting from the lessons. And I even meet people in conferences where I'm a speaker and the other person's a speaker, and they come to me and they say, "Hey, it's really nice to meet you. I've been watching you for years, and it was really your videos that helped me understand what I was supposed to be learning." Now, that's not because I'm so incredibly smart. That's not it at all. I assure you. I'm no smarter than you. What it was is I was very fortunate to be exposed to what real NLP is, and I'm going to go through how that happened and why this is so important. And it's not, like I said, it's not just about the NLP journey. It's anything you do. If you start with confusing information that is unclear or mixed with other stuff, you're going to have a frustrating go at this, no matter what you're doing. But if you start with clear and genuine information, it's going to be a lot easier and it's going to be a lot less complicated. And this is probably the biggest thing I that is challenging people with NLP. The reason why you find it confusing, the reason why you can't make it work, most of the time is you have bad information. And that's what it comes down to. I want to talk about what inspired me to go on a rant about this. Somebody messaged me. And by the way, if you want to message me, the best place to do that is actually the comments in these YouTube videos. I check this every single day. The only time I don't check my comments is if I'm on a plane or I'm sick. I check these comments more than anything else. Sometimes people message me on Instagram and your question might go unanswered for several days because I just don't check it all the time. But I do check YouTube. Go to any video and leave a comment and I will respond to you. Somebody sent me a message and said, Damon, I've been watching your videos. I like your stuff. I want to learn NLP, but I have a real problem with the beliefs that NLP teaches. And I was like, okay, that's a problem right there. NLP does not teach beliefs. So I told him that we have presuppositions. If you have studied NLP, that's one of the first things you typically learn is the presuppositions of NLP, which is like one of them would be there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. All behavior originates from a positive intention. That's two presuppositions just rattling off right now. These are not beliefs because they don't call them beliefs. We call them presuppositions. You presuppose that and you layer that onto your reality or a particular context or a particular experience if it is useful. If it is not useful, you drop it. It's not you don't use what is not useful in NLP. So they're not beliefs. You're not supposed to just believe that. You are supposed to lay that over your reality as a filter because more times than not that will be useful. But like I said, if you find a situation where it's not useful, you drop it. So right there, that was the first thing. And I said, okay, we don't teach beliefs in NLP. If anyone is teaching beliefs in NLP, like you must believe this, go find another teacher. That is not real. That is not real NLP. We do not teach beliefs. We teach how you create beliefs, and then we leave it up to you to decide what beliefs that you want to create. And we can give you guidance, we can give you tips on beliefs that are better than others. All beliefs are going to be limited to some extent because beliefs are an imposition, a limited imposition or a projection onto reality. So reality is always going to have more going on, more resources, more information. What you want to do is make your beliefs as unlimited as they can possibly be, but knowing that there's always going to be some limitation there. So I was curious about this. I was like, what beliefs are you being taught? And who are these teachers? And I'm this close to naming the teachers, but I'm not going to. There's a possibility at some point I might start calling out people who are calling themselves NLP teachers who are not teaching NLP, because that is going to be a benefit to you. And not that I want to bash anyone or hurt anyone's business or anything like that. I just don't want people learning these things, thinking it's NLP, and this creating problems for you. The whole point of teaching is to help people. For me, this is the best job in the world. I love teaching. And if I'm teaching something that is creating more frustration and problems for people, then I'm not doing my job. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to make this easier and clearer for you. I'm here to give you guidance. I asked him what beliefs they were teaching. And he said, well, they're teaching like past life regression stuff. Like you have to find out where the problem that you're dealing with or the limitation that you're dealing with, where is the origin of that problem? We do a little bit of that in NLP, but actually one of the things in NLP is we don't try to get bogged we don't want to get bogged down in the past. The past doesn't have all the answers. Sometimes it has answers, but it doesn't always have answers. And one of the ideas behind NLP is that you don't have to do years of psychotherapy trying to find the original piece that started it all. Even when you find that, it doesn't always necessarily solve your problem. You can find out the origin of a lot of things that that's now problematic for you. It doesn't necessarily solve it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So we don't spend a lot of time in NLP doing that, trying to find the origin. But they were taking this even further, and they were taking this into past lives. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. There is nothing in NLP about past lives. Now, you may believe in past lives. I don't, but that also doesn't mean that you can't use NLP effectively. NLP is about restructuring the content of your experiences to give you the meanings that will support you in being who you want to be and creating the life experiences that you want to experience. I know nothing about past lives. I don't have any sense or memory or any information of me ever living a past life. All of my memories are based on this life right now. So that's all I have to work with. And because there's no evidence of anything outside of that, I don't believe in it. And I don't not believe that it's possible. Maybe it's possible. Maybe so. I have no idea. But I can guarantee you this is not a part of NLP. Believing in past lives is not a part of NLP. If someone is teaching you that, find another teacher. If they're claiming that what they're teaching is NLP. So that's what really kicked this off. And I was just like, I cannot believe. And the teachers he was referring to, one of them is actually very well known. And I was just like, I don't know. I can't believe someone's teaching that. Now, if someone's teaching that and they're saying, okay, well, here's NLP, and they teach that, and then they say, okay, here's this other thing that's not NLP that I believe in, that I think is right, and I'm going to teach that to you. I'm fine with that. I'm not saying you can't mix stuff. I'm saying don't say something is NLP when it is not. And the truth is, I think, is probably the teacher, I know one of them is he's probably well-meaning. He probably actually thinks he is teaching NLP. And this is the problem. People think they're teaching NLP when it's not NLP. Yeah, this creates this creates a lot of problems. Before I go on, I do want to mention, because I tried doing this yesterday and we had a lot of technical problems. We do have a free training coming up this weekend. That'll be Saturday and Sunday. If you want to get in on this, you'll find the link in the description below this video. It is a free training. It is real NLP. It's all real NLP. What I want you to start thinking about is how well has this year shaped up for you? You had your plans in 2023 and you're looking at, we're almost at the end of 2024 and you're like, yeah, this year didn't really turn out like I wanted it to. Or maybe it did. Maybe you planned, you did well. Maybe you took one of our trainings and it is working out for you. So now you got to be thinking, well, what's next? What's in 2025? It's never too early to start thinking about that, especially we're at the end of the year. We're in the last quarter. That's what we're going to focus on. What do you want? How do you elicit the values for that? Because that's where fulfillment is. That's where your potential is. And then how do you turn that into a vision for your entire life, not just for 2025? And then what goals do you set that align with that vision that are going to take you there? How do you deal with the resistance, what many people call self-sabotage? But what I'm going to show you in this training is there's really no such thing as self-sabotage. It's really going to help you to think about it in a completely different way. And then we're going to go even deeper than that. So if you're starting to think about 2025, this is the training for you. If you haven't started thinking about 2025, then this training is definitely for you. So you can start thinking about it. So, like I said, you'll find the link in the description below this video. It is free. Take advantage of this. This is when people ask me for advice on NLP, oftentimes I will tell them start with the free stuff. Find a teacher who resonates with you. Find information that you can actually try and it works for you. Now you know you're in the right place and then pursue that even more. This training this weekend is a great start for that. Part of how I got sort of clued in that something was not right about the NLP that I had learned was I reached out to John Grinder, one of the founders of NLP. He still lives here in Santa Cruz. And I emailed him. I'm not going to get into all of that, all of the back and forth, but he was not happy. He was not happy that I had his email. He wanted to know who gave it to me, and it was a mess from the start. And then he said, "Who are your teachers?" And I was like, "Okay." So I listed names of my teachers, and he says, "None of them teach real NLP." And I got very defensive about that. I was like, "Wait a minute. No, these are world-renowned NLP teachers, and I spent a lot of money, and I worked really hard to learn. I took their trainings multiple times, and I practice every single day. How dare he tell me that my investment is not real NLP?" And I said, "Well, okay." After I kind of got over my defensiveness, I said, "Well, why? What's happening here? What are you referring to? Why is it not real NLP? These are people, John," I said, "you taught. So did you not teach them well, or are they going off on their own?" And he said, "No, they're going rogue, and what they're doing is they're imposing content on what they're calling NLP models. And NLP models, what makes them so powerful is they don't have content. They are pure structure. And not only are they pure structure, they're meant to be universal structures of experience. Science, hard sciences, they're trying to find the structures and the patterns in the objective world. That's why we call it the hard sciences. What can we objectively observe? What can we observe that when other people observe it, they see, hear, they access the same thing? That's what science is all about. NLP is all about how do we code these subjective structures? How do we find those universal subjective structures? And I'll give you three right now. This is what all NLP is based on: these three universal structures: deletion, generalization, and distortion. Done videos on this, so I'm not going to go into that. But if you're wondering what do I mean by universal structures, that's what I mean. I was a little put off by John's demeanor, the way he responded to me, but I felt grateful that I got something out of it, and there was definitely something that got into my mind about what he was saying, and I really started to question things. Then I met Steve Andreas, and I said, "Steve, I had this unfortunate exchange with John Grinder," and he kept going on and on about content imposition. "Can you tell me what is he talking about?" And Steve very politely, as a good teacher, as a patient teacher would, explained it to me. And just basically that, and it's kind of what I've already said about finding these universal structures, finding the patterns, not the content. And you're probably wondering, okay, so, Damon, I'm not quite sure what you mean by the structure versus the content. Affirmations are good examples of content where you're taking content and trying to move yourself using content. Okay. If I stand in front of a mirror and I keep telling myself I'm a multi-billionaire, even though I know I'm not, I'm taking content, what it means to, or what is it, being a multi-billionaire, meaning you have that much money. And I'm taking my current life, which is I don't have multi-billion dollars, and I'm trying to slam these two together. And I'm trying to make this one overcome this one. I'm trying to brainwash myself into believing that I'm actually a multi-billionaire. And if I can do that, then suddenly the multi-billions are going to come slamming into my bank account. And that's just not true. That's just not how this thing happens. Whereas you have NLP that says, okay, I have a desired state and I have a present state and a desired state. My present state is I don't have what I want. My desired state is when I have what I want. And notice we say state because that's what we're really after. What we're really after is the way something makes us feel, the meaning that it creates in our life. That's what we're really after. And this is why NLP is meta. NLP is above the content. Instead of saying, if I get m- if I get $1 billion, I'm going to be happy. It's we move it up. Okay, well then you want to be happy. Okay, will the $1 billion make you happy? No, it won't. It will change your life for sure, and it might make you happier if you can't pay your bills right now because that's miserable. But the money itself cannot make you happy. Content cannot make you happy. It has to be structured right. So an example of this is, since we're talking about money, when people win the lottery, I think the statistic is half the people after winning the lottery, half of them in 10 years are more broke than before they even won the lottery. Content, I guess the money in the sense, was dumped on them, but they found a way to get rid of it. Why? Because their reality was structured in such a way that they were still poor or they were still broke. And so they found a way to get rid of the money. Now, some people are in that position, the money gets dumped on them, and they need a transformation. They need to change something. They need to change their structure of their subjective reality so that they can hold on to the money. They can even grow that money. Okay, so that's the difference. We look for those structures that says, okay, how am I structuring my reality in such a way that I'm not able to be unhappy? I mean, I'm not able to be happy in a situation where I have everything that I need and I have people who support me and who love me. And there's a lot of people out there like that. I was one time that person. I could pay my bills. I a had and still do have a loving family. Um, everything was good around me. My life's not being threatened. None of those things. I'm not sick, and I couldn't be happy. What did I need? I needed to restructure my experience so that I could access happiness. And then once I could access that happiness, now I could build on that and I could become happier and happier and happier. And that's how NLP really works. Instead of just trying to tell myself I'm happy or trying to convince myself I'm happy or trying to brainwash myself into being happy. And then now I'm like delusional because I haven't really made myself happier. I've just tried to get myself to believe it. It's like people who, they say, oh, if you want to be successful, you need to wear successful looking clothes and have a successful haircut and a successful beard or shave or something like that. And you do all those things and you go, okay, when's the success coming? So that's content, right? We go to structure in NLP. We change the structure of our experiences so that we change our sense of reality so that then we go and make those things happen. We bring those things into our reality because now we experience the value, the states that we want to experience, which puts us in a resourceful state. And then now it's a lot easier to go and get those things. I want you to think about this. Like if you're out there trying to learn NLP, you're trying to find good sources of NLP. Imagine this. Imagine, let's say when you're in junior high, maybe your first year of high school, where you don't have a lot of learning, deep learning in say mathematics or in science and literature and history. And instead of making those separate subjects that they teach you separately, they just mash them all together into 7 hours every single day without making any distinctions about what is math, what is science, what is literature, and what is history. They just smash it all together. In one sentence, they might teach you something about math, and the next sentence, the teacher teaches you something about science. The next sentence, they're saying something about history. The next sentence, they're saying something about literature. Imagine doing that for 7 hours a day for 4 years when you're in high school. How much do you think you would learn? Probably not much. You would probably walk out of high school more confused than when you went in, right? This is how NLP is being taught. NLP is being taught like, well, here's a little bit of law of attraction. Here's a little bit of affirmation. Here's a little bit of NLP. Here's a little bit of this other stuff and this other stuff and this other past life regression. This is not NLP. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't use NLP along with any of those other things. Do whatever works for you, but know what NLP is and know what it is not. If you want to get the most out of NLP and you want NLP to be effective, you need to know what is NLP before you go mixing it with anything else. And what I'm seeing is a lot of people are learning from teachers who don't know, can't distinguish between what NLP is and what it is not. So they're just mashing all these things together. They're teaching it. Then they hand these people a certification. These people say, well, if I have a certification, then I can go and teach this. I can start a business. And so they just keep passing on this misinformation about NLP to more people. And then their students get certified and then they start teaching. I would say more so than ever because probably of the internet and YouTube and all these places where anyone with a camera can upload. We're experiencing more misinformation about what NLP is than ever before. So I think that most people, especially people who are carrying a certification, and even most people who are teaching NLP, do not know what it is. I've been to conferences where people are selling their trainings and they come to me and they're trying to sell their training. And I just ask them a few questions and they just go blank. I'm like, how do they not know these basics? How do they not know these very simple things? And now they're going out and charging people thousands of dollars to, just basically just to give them a certification, and they don't know what it is. So you have these 3-day trainings, you get a certificate, and you go, okay, I'm certified in NLP. I can go teach. Okay, just keep passing on the misinformation. Earlier this year, I did a video. It was my first and only reaction video. I might do more of these if people like them, but this one performed okay, I guess. There's a woman named Danielle Ryan who has a YouTube channel, and she likes to call out teachers and gurus in the personal development space for being scams and cheating people. And for the most part, I think she's doing a good job. For the most part, I like what she does because I want these people to be exposed. I want people to know what's a scam and what's not a scam so they can learn what they want to learn and not waste their money. So, in general, I like what she's doing, but we got our lanes crossed. She went into criticizing NLP. And if you watch her video, or what I noticed whenever I watched her video right away, she did not know what NLP was. Most people don't, like I've been saying. So she's criticizing something that is not NLP. And I agree with her criticisms because the stuff she's calling out, I agree that it doesn't work and people are paying thousands of dollars for it. But guess what? It's not NLP. So my reaction video had a lot to do with that. And I reached out to her before I did the reaction video and I said, okay, I'm going to do this with you or without you. We can have a debate about this. We can do it on a live stream. Or if you're not interested in that, I'm just going to make a reaction video. I'm going to do it in good faith. I'm going to assume that you have a positive intention. You don't want people to get scammed. So this is the way I'm going to do this. And she was like, I am not debating you. I said, that's fine. And I said, I'll let you know when I did the video. And we were cool after I did the video and published it. And I just really wanted to emphasize to both her and to anyone who watched her video that the things that she was criticizing, most of them had nothing to do with NLP. And I was really critical of her because she went on the TikTok and found these TikToks of people claiming to be NLP teachers and teaching NLP processes on TikTok. And I was like, Danielle, why didn't you just go to the founders? They have plenty of content out there. They have books, they have videos. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you come to there's plenty of people out there who are putting out good NLP content, good NLP information. But she chose to go to the worst place, the worst platform for it, and find the worst representations of what she thought NLP was. And so hopefully she understands that now and doesn't make more videos using supposed NLP TikTok videos. But yeah, they were terrible. It was like, this is not NLP. It did remind me though of my practitioner training and my master practitioner training that I attended. There was a sense there, and with those teachers, is that you can just do anything. NLP is just, you can do anything. You just make it up on the spot, and it's NLP, and it's not. But they never came right out and said that, but that is the feeling that I got when I was training there, and I started making up all my little processes, and if I tried to put that in front of John Grinder or even my mentor, Steve Andreas, they would have been like, "Where did you get this? Because this is not NLP." And this is what John Grinder was yelling at me about. It was email, so he wasn't literally yelling at me, but it felt like it. Mixing law of attraction, mixing past life regression, anything to do with, like, mixing spirituality into NLP, right away, you know that's not NLP. NLP is completely secular. It is completely neutral. There's nothing in NLP that says you shouldn't have spiritual beliefs or believe in God or anything like that. It's completely neutral. So if you come across any of that, just know, again, it's not real NLP. I'll give you another example. When I started doing yoga, which was like over 20 years ago, I really lucked out on this one. I got lucky on yoga and I got lucky on NLP when I met Steve Andreas. I was living in New Orleans at the time, and just down the road was a yoga studio, and I tried yoga before from different places, didn't like it. I was like, I'm going to give this thing one more try, and I went down to the studio, and it turned out that the teacher was a world-renowned Ashtanga yoga teacher. She had learned directly from Patabi Joyce, the guy who was really revived Ashtanga. And when I saw the practice, I was like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. I'm coming back and I want to do this. And she was very strict about being very precise and being strictly what she had been taught. After 7 or 8 months of that, I really felt it. Like my body felt completely different, and I felt like even my movements and the way that I walked, it all started to change. And I could tell that it was coming directly from the yoga and specifically how she taught the postures. Because if you look at different yogas, you have like similar postures but different, right? But Ashtanga is such a specific and precise system that if you start watering it down by taking the poses and just doing these variations on them, you don't get the same feeling. It doesn't quite work. And so later, when I moved to California and I started attending Ashtanga yoga classes, I started noticing that they weren't doing the postures the way that Patabi Joyce had taught them. And so I would question them, like, why aren't you locking your fingers around your toe for certain poses and things like that? And I go, oh, well, it doesn't matter. And come to find out, the teacher had come from a different yoga system. And so she took some of that with her into Ashtanga. And I said, well, okay, if you want to mix that, I don't have a problem. It's your own personal yoga practice. Do what you want. But you're teaching people incorrectly. And the problem with that is they don't get the Ashtanga yoga feel, the experience of what Ashtanga yoga is. When you get to that point, when you do get to the purity of that, the precision of that, and you get the real feeling of what that does for your body, which is going to be different than other styles of yoga, then you don't know what is Ashtanga and what is not Ashtanga. And that's what I tried to communicate to her, and she was like, "Oh, it's much more loose than that." It's like, and I was just like, "No, it's not." Okay, but agree to disagree. NLP is the same way. People can say, "Oh, you don't need to be so strict. You don't need to be so rigid about it." It's not about being strict and rigid. It's about effectiveness. It's about getting the results that you want. And so when people come to me and they say, "Well, NLP doesn't work," and I say, "Okay, well, tell me what you know about NLP." And inevitably, they don't really know what NLP is. They were taught processes that were, incorrectly taught. And I was like, well, of course you're not making it work. And I'll give you a great example. And one of my first videos that ever, picked up views and was kind of successful was a video I taught on how most people are taught the swish pattern incorrectly. The swish pattern is one of the foundational NLP processes. It's so incredibly simple. But yet I was taught that pattern wrong by multiple teachers, multiple world-renowned NLP teachers. Whenever I was talking to Steve Andreas, my mentor at the time when he was mentoring me, and he was saying, "Well, no, you do it this way." And I was like, Whoa, that's not the way that I was taught." I had stopped doing the swish pattern because it didn't work for me. Well, why didn't it work? It didn't work because I was taught it incorrectly. And when Steve pointed out to me that it was taught to me incorrectly, he didn't even believe me because he knew my teachers. And he said, there's no way. There's no way they taught it to you that way." And I was like, "Steve, this guy and this guy taught it to me that way, and Steve taught one of them. Steve actually certified one of them as a teacher, and he went off and decided to do something different. Whenever he taught me how to do it correctly, and I did it, it worked right away. And I thought, okay, this is it. Like I'm listening to this guy now because I was still kind of skeptical of him. And then he went and looked up the material from from my teachers who I said taught it to me wrong, and he came back to me and said, "You're right. They are teaching this wrong." That's when I realized it is not necessarily easy to get your hands on good and accurate NLP information. And that, like I said, was one of the inspirations for me to start doing these videos. That video that I made of the switch pattern was before I was uploading regular content on a regular basis. And I was like, I need to make this video because I was taught this wrong, couldn't make it work, abandoned the process, never used it anymore. I could have been using it for years. Like it's such a powerful process. And so I felt like I need to get this out to everybody, especially people who have been taught this incorrectly. If you're taught something incorrectly, like the swish pattern, like I did, it and it doesn't work, it creates an immediate bias. And you say, "Oh, well, that doesn't work." Just like people are saying, "Well, NLP doesn't work." And it's like, well, if I had been taught it correctly from the beginning and I used it correctly from the beginning and got immediate results, then my bias would be, hey, this works really well. I can use this for many, many things. This is why it's so important to start your journey with good, solid information, good, solid NLP information, because that's what's going to make it effective. Like I said, it's not about being rigid. It's not about being strict. It's not about being a purist. It's about it working. And if you don't do the steps right, and you don't do the process right because you learned it wrong, you're not going to be that effective with it. Like I said, I don't want to be the purist who says you can't mix anything with NLP. Of course you can. Of course you can. But what I found is that NLP, most of the time, in my experience, if you do it well and you have accurate information, you're doing the processes correctly, it's going to work for you 90% of the time. 90% of the time, you won't need anything else. But I like to use like philosophy. I like to use non duality. I like to use stoicism. And these things are not problematic when you mix them as long as you know what's philosophy and what's NLP. I had somebody just send me a question today, wanted to know what was the difference between the Socratic method and the meta model. It was a great question. And it's important to understand these distinctions. And so I explained, Socratic method is more philosophical. The meta model questioning is really about getting reconnected with sensory based experience with reality as much as possible, as much objective reality as you can, because that's where the missing resources typically are. And when I answered it like that, he was like, okay, got it. Without understanding these distinctions, first, before you mix them, it's just going to get chaotic and it's just going to be frustrating and it's it's not going to work. Or if it does work, you're going to get really watered down results. You water down NLP, you're going to get watered down results. If you notice that people are putting in their own content into NLP, like affirmations or law of attractions, a big one that's all content based. Know that that is not NLP. Tony Robbins is a great case of someone who learned the old code of NLP, learned the classic NLP, and really mastered it. And he's so good at it. From what I can tell, from what I've seen of his more recent stuff, is that he's still working off of that sort of basic classic NLP. And yet, it's still so effective. It's still so effective when you know it really well. When you really know it well. And Tony, I can tell he knows basic NLP extremely well. Knowing the old code, the basic NLP really, really well will take you much, much further than learning a bunch of advanced stuff that's mixed in with non-NLP content. Promise you, every time. Problem that we're solving here. Most of the NLP that's being taught is not real NLP, which is why people aren't able to make it work. And they're wasting thousands of dollars on this, and they're wasting hours and hours and hours trying to make something work that is just not going to work. The people teaching it don't actually know what NLP is. I'm not saying everyone, a lot of people. So whether you're starting your NLP journey or you've been at this for years, start learning real NLP now. If you want to master it, if you want to get the benefits from it, if you want to be effective at it, start now. So if you're just beginning, start on the right path. If you're like me and you learned for a few years not the watered down stuff, now it's time to drop that, be open, and find a legitimate source of NLP and start your journey over again, and drop your biases, because you probably have a lot of biases. I had them. It took somebody like Steve, who was he was so direct and so to the point. He had a reputation for that, and people told me, "Hey, watch out for that guy." Once I got into it, I understood why they said that, but he was extremely well-meaning, and he just wanted people to really learn so that they could help themselves. And so he was very direct. He didn't pull any punches, and he was not afraid at all to expose my biases and expose that a lot of what I learned was not real, and that's why it wasn't working. So you really cannot master NLP if you haven't learned real NLP. So if you want to master it, you got to know, you got to learn the real stuff. You got to know what the real NLP is. So the best possible thing you can do if you're just getting started is start there. You can ask me these questions. That's why I'm here. I can assure you I am a legitimate source of NLP. My videos reflect that. Not perfect, but my videos reflect that. I'm not the only one. John Grinder is still around. He still shows up on YouTube. Richard Bandler, the other founder, he's still around too. He still puts videos out. Anything from Steve and Connie Ray Andreas, legitimate source of NLP. I feel like my job is to get legitimate NLP information out to you. I want people to benefit from NLP the way that I have benefited from NLP. And I've been at this for 11 years. And I got to tell you, the journey has been amazing. It's when your dreams start coming true. Oh man, like that is nothing is better than that. And so, like I said, we have a free NLP training coming up this weekend. It is real NLP. If you do the exercises, which we're all going to do together, and it's interactive, and I will be engaging with you, I will be answering your questions, you will be different after this weekend in a good way. You will be different. And if you're looking for a good, solid practitioner training, that's legitimate NLP, there's a link in this description as well. I have a training that I did. It's based on Steve and Connie Ray Andreas's practitioner training. It's not my material, but I taught it. It's a 24-day training. Get that, a practitioner training that's 24 days, because that's the way they used to be taught. They weren't taught in 3 days. You're not going to learn NLP in 3 days. You're not going to learn NLP in 7 days. You're not going to even learn it in 2 weeks. This is a 24-day online training with a community, so that you can find practice partners, people to work with, and we do workshops as well. That is a solid source of NLP to get started with. And if you've already done practitioner training, I guarantee you this is not the same practitioner training you've done, unless you've trained with Stephen Connie Ray Andreas. Whenever I decided to teach this practitioner training, I couldn't believe how different it was from the 3 practitioner trainings I had done previous to this, meaning that I had attended. It was so different. And so that was an amazing experience to do that. And here's the thing. We made it so inexpensive. It's important for me to get this out to you. I've done over 1,000 free NLP videos that you can find here on YouTube. Okay, that's how dedicated I am to this. This practitioner training, which took a lot out of me to create, it's too inexpensive not to have as part of your reference, at least, at the very least, as a reference. And I think what you'll find is as you get into that training, you'll go, whoa, this is very different than what I was taught. And even, a little skeptical attitude about it, like, hey, I don't know if this is really real. I don't know. That's fine if you have that skeptical attitudes, because I want you to test it. I want you to test these processes. I want you to test what I teach in that practitioner training, because when you do, you're going to find out the truth.